Hi.
Chris, hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Eric
I'm
and
John.
David, and this is John.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, we've met.
Yeah, because you came to your place
Yeah,
to
yeah,
install your ring.
My beautiful ring.
Sculptor David Allen's unique style joins the physicality of the tradesman with the sensibility of the artist. Over 20 years of creative trade and art experience have contributed to this distinctive style that combines naturally occurring medium with various shapes, geometric patterns, and forms. David utilizes the material he's chosen to create something more than what it appears to be on the surface.
This is all countertops.
Oh, you're kidding.
So sometimes I wonder about all the people who are, eating off their countertops, and I've got all their remnants in my art projects. Now, if you could put all the people there instead of the stone, what would you be looking at?
That's fabulous.
So yeah, there's no glue or anything in there. It's just all stacked on top of each other. All large pieces. Once you get up here, you can use a whole bunch of little pieces because you're coming back. But as you're coming out, it's considered corbelling in the stonemasonry world. You just keep extending a little bit until you're, 70 or 80% of the diameter, and then you still want to cross pieces that have long pieces going into the middle. But I essentially, when I'm building it, I rough it out so that I would build the bottom first, upside down, and when it's roughed out, it essentially looks like a round staircase where it's all square shoulder. But if I calculate how to place those pieces properly, then I just come with a grinder and connect the points. Just again, several hundred hours later of grinding and polishing. My dad is an artist, so I've been exposed to art for my whole life. I spent quite a few years working in Massachusetts, just a building contractor, carpentry. So a lot of the stonework related to all of that work, all the measuring and the looking at things for equality and level and plumb and all that. When I was probably, I guess in my mid-20s, I was found out about Andy Goldsworthy, and he kind of spurred a whole kind of like, wow, you can do these things. This is really great. There's been a lot of different pathways to the creativity. I do some carpentry work, to pay the bills, and really just got tired of doing it. And then I'd make art, and I was just making some like public art, like land art. And I remember in particular a day up at Carrabassett Valley when I made this piece in the river, and everybody that came by said it was like the best thing they'd ever seen, or that made my day, or that was thank you so much. And I was like, wow, this seems a lot more attractive than, why does it cost so much, or that's not right, or whatever the complaint was in the construction world. And I think that was like really the moment where I was just like, yeah, I think I need to pursue this. And I did it for several years without really, I got a little bit of notoriety, but I wasn't really making my way. Mm-hmm. So it took several more years of kind of being persistent. A lot of trial and error, and see what happens, and embrace the things that work, and sometimes even the things that don't work lead to new places. Mistakes are something to not be ignored. I pay attention, and a lot of the things that I've done are the result of observing what happens, even if it's not the thing I want to happen. Some of it's measuring, and then at a certain point a lot of it's just feel and touch and what it looks like, and going backwards and forwards, thinking I'm there and then realizing I'm not, and then going back and it's hard to see the finish line when you're in a rough stage with granite. It's one of those things I feel like if you had been a granite sculptor for 40 years, you'd still feel like you were improving. There's a lot of carryover from the last thing I did, you know, goes into the next thing. And I do a lot of starting and not finishing because I think it's kind of important to, like, you can never recapture that moment where you're like, wow, I should maybe start doing this. So I've got this great idea right now. I'm gonna like just do it, at least start it. I can put it aside if I want to, but and I've kind of started to embrace that. The general idea with all this stone splitting is you're kind of like always splitting it in half. That's how the stone wants to break. So this big slab, I think, you know, the first split was, you know, in half, and then, you know, in half again, and you keep going in half. And you can see sometimes, you know, you can't get them all to be the same, you know.
Right.
This piece and that piece are considerably different shapes, but,
Right.
you know, you want to break it in a certain place, but no matter where it breaks, it goes back together perfectly. So there's definitely a satisfaction when I'm putting this together of feeling the stone
Go back together.
go back together like
Neat.
that. It's fantastic. It's just magic.
Right.
It's just like, oh, it just goes right back together perfectly. It's like, it's essentially a cube. I draw an X on each side, and then I cut away the remainder. And it's essentially, if I set up a jig to hold this in, it's just the same cut 24 different times. I work down to that point, and then I polish the one facet to the dark and leave the other honed. That's how we land in this place. Is so that you have these moving perspectives, and sometimes just the silhouette or the shadow is pretty wonderful. And I've just kind of become somewhat addicted to wanting the sculptures to do a little bit more than just sit there. I really like seeing things move. So they all do, you know, they all do different things. But feel free to, you know, to touch them if you want to. That's, yeah, it's part of the, certainly what I'm doing a lot when I'm building these is I'm touching them to, you know, so even with the polishing, a lot of it is more about what your hand feels than what your eye sees, where you are along the polishing route, if it's still coarse or if it's become polished.
They have all the volume and presence.
Yeah, no,
That is cool. That piece right there.
Yeah.
You can hear the weight.
It moves even more, but we'll just go with that. It's not quite 100% done, but
That is unbelievable. That's again,
there it is.
You know, you're going, can it roll off? But
Exactly. There's a danger quality to it.
Right.
well, you wouldn't want to put your fingers in there. That's for sure.
But it stays. It would never roll off because
If you
because
set
of the
up
weight of
straight, if you get level and there's no obstructions, yes, it pretty much stays on there.
Right.
This blend of technical skill and artistic vision come together to celebrate the beauty of a natural substance in both an artistically creative and visually precise form. And it's through the process of working with and handling any particular material that David Allen is able to find its true form.